Fox is kind of an outlier in the media landscape in the way that it has maintained its incredible monopoly over its audience.
You have a founder. Obviously, his father was a publisher in Australia. He takes the platform of his dad, he expands it, he takes it global, he turns it into print, media, television, movies, etc. And now he's got sons and daughters, but he's got a family that he's dealing with now. And obviously HBO spun that into the Roy family, right? Pretty obvious. But what happens? Because you're a student of human beings, and you're a student of literature. So what happens to a guy like Murdoch? Is he frustrated by this whole thing?
Yeah, let me, 2 points here. I mean, Murdoch's, I would say, 2 main interests in life are making an enormous amount of money and of turning over business he built to people named Murdoch. I mean, this is central to him. The idea of a generational dynasty is involved with every decision he has ever made. Now, he made a curious decision, which would come back to bite him, is now biting him at this very moment, when he divorced his second wife. He divorced his second wife, Anna, in California, community property state. She had the ability at that point to wreck his empire, to take half of it, to demand that large parts of it be sold. She held the power. The agreement that they made so that she wouldn't do this was the following. She would get, instead of billions upon billions upon billions, she would take only $100 million. But he would agree that he would lock up all of his holdings in a trust for his then existing children. There were 4 children. Now, the effect of that was twofold. It meant that any children that he had after this, and he would have come to have 2 more, would not be part of the trust. But more importantly, he couldn't ever change the trust. And the trust works that when Rupert Murdoch dies, the power, his shares then are evenly divided among his 4 children, now his 4 oldest children. They have then the power to decide what happens with this company. So as a succession point, what happens is that he gave up his ability to appoint his own successor. Flash forward now, 20 years later, he has tried to appoint his son Lachlan as his successor. His son Lachlan now holds the job of CEO, holds the job because Rupert Murdoch still holds the votes. When Rupert Murdoch dies, and again, he's 92, those votes are split evenly among the 4 children, who will then decide what happens to the company. And that very well may mean, probably does mean, they throw their brother out because, among other things, they hate Fox. They're kind of liberal kids, no longer kids. They're liberal, international, professional people who don't want the taint
tied into the
the
Hollywood crowd. They don't like the Hollywood crowd hammering them related to what's going on at Fox.
Exactly. So that's where Rupert finds himself.
I guess what I would when I was reading your book, it made me think about America, Michael. And you've written Fire and Fury, best-selling book, and several books about the Trump administration. So I want to reflect with you on something and then ask you to respond to this. When I reading your book, there's a group of Americans, primarily white. They could be lower or middle class. They feel aggrieved. They feel left out of the establishment. They feel left out of the system. by the way, I relate to that because I did grow up with these people. I grew up in a blue collar neighborhood and a blue collar family.
So did I.
Totally. So family members of yours are Trump supporters because if you grew up in that neighborhood, they have a grievance. They have a grievance against the medical establishment, the media. They don't like you, sir. They don't like me. I represent Wall Street. You represent the media. You see what I mean? And there's a grievance. And Mr. Ailes from Warren, Ohio, he understood that grievance. He grabbed the pulse of that grievance and he played it.
Absolutely. I forget
that grievance, or if Fox demises, does something crueler and more ugly come up? Is there a crueler?
Well, yes. I think two things. There's somebody, I can't remember who said Roger Ailes discovered a niche audience, which turned out to be half of the country.
There you go. Exactly right. Exactly.
So, but I think what Fox is kind of an outlier in the media landscape in the way that it has maintained its incredible monopoly over its audience. And there's a lot of reasons, kind of media reasons that people say that happens because it's an older audience, less techy, less choice, all of that. But I think what happens, is that those factors go away and have been going away. And that audience begins to respond just the same as all other mainstream liberal audiences, which is that they find other options. The media that has been at the center and has held the monopoly fragments. So I think that we will see, and we are seeing, the growth of a lot of outlets to service this audience, whether it's Joe Rogan or whether it's Ben Shapiro or Tucker Carlson is fired from Fox and he is now out there on Twitter or X and raising money, and he will start his own enterprise. And I think we'll just see more and more of this kind of thing. The audience, its nature, its identity, all that will still be there, but it will be serviced across a much wider spectrum.